America is facing 4 disasters at the same time right now, and scientists say this is just the beginning. Not 4 disasters in 4 different parts of the world. 4 disasters hitting the United States simultaneously, today, as this video is being made. Wildfire smoke blanketing the East Coast from the Great Lakes to Washington, D.C. Flash flooding tearing through Texas for the 3rd consecutive day. 68 large wildfires burning across 15 states in the West, and record heat gripping the Southwest with no end in sight. Drop a comment right now and tell me which of these 4 threats is closest to where you live, because by the end of this video you are going to understand why scientists are saying something they have never said before about what is happening to the American summer. Subscribe now if you want to keep following this, because what is unfolding right now is not a series of separate weather stories. It is one story, and most people are only seeing one piece of it. Here is the piece nobody is putting together. CNN headline this morning called it the summer of compounding disasters. Zachary Laib, a climate scientist at Climate Central, put it directly: climate change is a present threat, and it will become even harder to ignore as the impacts grow. The burning of fossil fuels is already having a clear and significant impact on communities, and we do not have to wait until 2050 or 2100 to see the consequences. That is not dramatic language invented for television. That is a climate scientist, today, describing what is visible from a satellite image of the United States right now. Let's go through each of the 4 threats one by one, because each of them is serious on its own, and then let's talk about what happens when all 4 arrive at the same time. Start with the smoke. For the 2nd time in 4 years, wildfire smoke from Canada has turned the sky over New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. an eerie shade of sepia. The air smells like smoke hundreds of miles from the nearest fire. At noon in Boston, the sun was barely visible through the pollution. In New York, the Empire State Building is visible through a dense orange haze that makes the city look like a photograph taken through a dirty lens. Millions of people in the most densely populated corridor in the United States have been told to stay indoors, limit outdoor activity, and check on elderly neighbors and relatives. This is not the first time. In 2023, the same thing happened. The same corridor, the same orange sky, the same air quality alerts. Scientists who study wildfire smoke said at the time that they expected events like this to become more frequent as wildfire seasons in Canada and the American West intensified. They were right, it came back. And the people who dismissed the 2023 event as a one-off anomaly are now watching the same anomaly happen again, 2 years later, in the same cities. The reason smoke from Canadian wildfires reaches New York is atmospheric. The jet stream carries smoke plumes thousands of miles from their source, and when the jet stream dips south over the eastern seaboard, which it has been doing more often as the polar vortex weakens, it delivers smoke from fires burning in Quebec or Ontario directly into the breathing air of 50 million Americans on the East Coast. Fires themselves are burning because Canada, like the American West, is experiencing a wildfire season that is expanding in length and intensity year over year. The smoke is the visible edge of a fire problem that is getting larger, not smaller. Now the floods. Parts of Texas Hill Country just experienced what meteorologists are calling a 1,000-year rainfall event, the second in just 2 years. Events classified as 1,000-year events have, by definition, a 0.1% chance of occurring in any single year under normal statistical conditions. The probability of a 1,000-year event happening in the same region 2 years in a row, under those same conditions, is essentially negligible. It is not negligible. It just happened. The Guadalupe River crested above last year's record in some locations. More than 80 people were pulled from cars and flooded homes by rescue crews over the first 24 hours. At least 2 people were confirmed dead, with searches still ongoing. In Uvalde, nearly 20 inches of rain fell in 48 hours, approaching the city's entire annual rainfall average deposited in 2 days. The explanation for why a 1,000-year event is recurring this fast is the same explanation that covers everything else in this video. Warmer air holds more moisture. When that moisture releases, it releases more intensely than the same storm system would have released a decade ago. The statistics of rare events are being rewritten in real time. Now the fires. While the East Coast chokes on smoke, the West is generating it. 68 large wildfires are burning across 15 states right now. New fires erupted in the Pacific Northwest overnight. Red flag conditions, the combination of low humidity, high temperatures, and strong winds that fire agencies use to flag maximum fire danger, are in effect across parts of Washington state. The National Interagency Fire Center has moved resources to the highest readiness level in parts of the West, meaning that the available firefighting assets are already stretched, and any new ignition in a red flag zone could escalate rapidly before crews can contain it. Western wildfire season no longer has a clear start and end point. Fires have burned in California in every month of the calendar year in recent years. The 2025 Southern California wildfires were the most destructive in United States history, killing more than 27 people and causing an estimated $250 billion in damage. Forests and shrublands that supply fuel for those fires are drier than they were a generation ago, for longer periods of the year, because the water cycle that used to keep them moist through the winter and spring is shifting. And now the heat. While the east coughs through smoke and the south digs out from flood damage and the west burns, the southwest is under a heat that has no clear endpoint in sight. Phoenix is on track for another summer that could challenge its all-time records. The National Weather Service has been issuing extreme heat warnings across Arizona and Nevada for weeks. Las Vegas recorded temperatures that would have been considered all-time records a decade ago, and now barely make headlines because they occur with increasing regularity. Here is the part that scientists are only now beginning to quantify with the precision that makes it undeniable. The National Academy of Sciences released a new report this week, the most authoritative analysis of its kind ever produced, on the science of attributing extreme weather events to climate change. The findings stated plainly, researchers can now confidently and directly tie heat waves and precipitation extremes, as well as their impacts, to human-caused climate change, not probably, not likely, confidently. The language used in the scientific community to describe a conclusion that the evidence supports without meaningful uncertainty. That report landed on the same day that New York's air quality was hazardous. Texas was flooding for the third day in a row, 68 wildfires were burning in 15 states, and Phoenix was under an extreme heat warning. 2025 Pew Research survey found that 74% of Americans said they had experienced at least one form of extreme weather in the past year. Heat waves, floods, wildfires, severe storms. Almost 3 in 4 Americans, not reading about it, not watching it on the news from a safe distance, experiencing it personally in their own communities in the past 12 months. This is the compounding part, and it is the part that most disaster coverage misses entirely. When a single disaster strikes, the systems around it can absorb the impact. Emergency crews from neighboring counties respond to the flood. Air quality warnings go out for the smoke. Firefighters from other states deploy to the west. The mutual aid systems that American emergency management depends on function because they were designed for single events or multiple events that are geographically separated. Compounding disasters break that assumption. When the east is in a smoke emergency, the south is in a flood emergency, the west is in a fire emergency, and the southwest is in a heat emergency simultaneously. The mutual aid systems are drawing on the same finite pool of resources at the same time. Emergency managers in Texas cannot pull firefighters from the west because the west needs them. FEMA cannot preposition resources in Phoenix and the Texas Hill Country and the Pacific Northwest at the same time with the same level of intensity. The federal disaster declaration process, the state emergency management systems, the National Guard deployments, all of them are built around responding to one thing at a time, or at most two. The resource competition is only one piece of the compounding problem. The other piece is the power grid. The American electrical grid is the single largest piece of infrastructure connecting all 4 of these disasters, and right now, it is under simultaneous pressure from all 4 directions at once. The Southwest, Phoenix, and Las Vegas are drawing maximum power demand as air conditioning units run continuously through heat that does not break at night. In the West, wildfires are threatening transmission lines and forcing preemptive shutoffs in some areas to prevent new ignitions. In the South, flood damage to substations and transmission infrastructure in Texas is affecting power delivery in communities still being rescued. And in the East, the surge in indoor activity caused by air quality warnings is pushing air conditioning demand higher in cities that are already managing heat of their own. 2024 analysis by the North American Electric Reliability Corporation found that 2/3 of North America is at risk of electricity shortfalls during periods of extreme weather. That analysis was conducted before this summer. It modeled scenarios in which multiple regions experience demand spikes simultaneously. This summer is running that scenario in real time, not as a model, but as an actual operational condition on the grid. Scenario that keeps grid operators awake is not a single region's demand pushing the system to its limit. It is multiple regions hitting their limits at the same moment, in a system where the reserve capacity that one region normally borrows from its neighbors is already committed to those neighbors' own emergencies. Power is not infinitely transferable across geography. Transmission lines have capacity limits. When every region is at or near those limits simultaneously, the margin for error disappears. This is not speculation about a future risk. The North American grid right now, in the third week of July 2026, is managing demand conditions across the Southwest, wildfire-related reliability concerns in the West, flood-related outages in parts of Texas, and elevated cooling demand across the East Coast, all at the same time. Grid operators are doing their jobs. The lights are on. The margin is thinner than it has been in years, and the summer has not reached its statistical peak yet. The statistical peak of the American wildfire season runs through August and September. The peak of hurricane season runs from mid-August through mid-October. The most dangerous heat weeks in Phoenix and Las Vegas are still ahead, and the atmospheric conditions that have been producing extreme rainfall events are not changing before fall, and the scientists who study compound weather events say this summer is not the outlier, it is the preview. Drop another comment and tell me which of these 4 threats concerns you the most for your area, and subscribe if you want to keep tracking all of them with us, because this summer has barely reached its peak. Hurricane season is still ramping up. The heat in the southwest is not breaking. The wildfire season in the west is entering its most dangerous months, and the atmospheric conditions that produce the extreme rainfall events that just hit Texas twice in 2 years are not going away. This is not the summer of compounding disasters as a one-time event. This is the summer that compounding disasters became the American summer. Here is the number that puts all of it in context. The United States has experienced more than 400 separate weather and climate disasters that each caused at least $1 billion in damage since 1980. In the first 2 decades of that period, the average was roughly $6 billion disasters per year. In the most recent 5 years, the average has been more than 20 per year. The frequency has more than tripled. The cost per event has grown. And the events themselves are no longer arriving one at a time, in a sequence that allows the response systems to reset between them. They are arriving together, all at once, in the same summer, in a country where the systems designed to respond to them were built for a different frequency, a different intensity, and a fundamentally different assumption about how many disasters could be happening simultaneously. The National Academy of Sciences report that landed this week did not say that disaster is coming. It said that disaster is here, that the connection to human activity is no longer a matter of scientific debate, and that the impacts will grow. The scientists who study these systems are not predicting the future. They are describing what is happening right now, from satellite images and river gauges and air quality sensors and wildfire perimeter maps that are all updating in real time. 68 wildfires, 3 days of flooding, the East Coast under a smoke advisory, Phoenix under an extreme heat warning, all of it today at the same time. Drop another comment and tell me which of these 4 threats concerns you the most for your area, and subscribe if you want to keep tracking all of them with us, because this summer has barely reached its peak. Hurricane season is still ramping up. The heat in the southwest is not breaking. The wildfire season in the west is entering its most dangerous months, and the atmospheric conditions that produce the extreme rainfall events that just hit Texas twice in 2 years are not going away. This is not the summer of compounding disasters as a one-time event. This is the summer that compounding disasters became the American summer.